same card as this morning. If you already filled one out, you don't need to fill it out. Just write your name on it, because we will have a raffle at the end with some of the products that has been made by our students, whether from the tailoring program or from our other schools. So you'll get that as part of the raffle in the end. So even if you already gave a card this morning, just write your name on it for the raffle, and I will collect it at the end.
You, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in the darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God, yeah. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God, yeah. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna sing. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. 'Cause all my life you have been so, so good, yeah. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God.
So this video in particular showcases our projects all over the world. Who can guess which countries were featured? Just go ahead and shout them out. India. A lot from India. We had Pakistan. We had Bangladesh. I don't believe we had Vietnam in this video. We had Tanzania. We also had Ethiopia, so we had a couple from Africa. We also had the Philippines. Okay, yes, we had the Philippines as well. So we have projects in we have 33 projects in 19 countries and counting. It was established initially as Asia Aid as primarily for school sponsorships. So we want to get kids into Adventist educations. We want to teach them about Jesus. But then we realized before we can even get them into a school, a lot of these kids were in really desperate situations that needed to get them out of that. So in 2014, we began the fight for human trafficking, not just sponsoring for scholarships, but to actually fight human trafficking and get kids out of these horrible situations. A couple of the badges that we have here from Charity Navigator, if you give to a nonprofit, I encourage you to look up that nonprofit and see how they rate on Charity Navigator. We have 4 stars, which is the highest rating. And we are 100% donor funded. So one of the questions that I get is, what is your overhead cost? You know, what does it cost? How much of the money is actually going to the projects? And so our overhead is 13%. And according to a lot of these accrediting companies or organizations, anything less than 20 is considered excellent. So we have some of that goes to administration and to ensure that our projects are well run, that the people that we are entrusting money to are actually putting it towards these projects. And so to keep that standard of excellence, we do have to pay people to run it. However, we want to keep that cost at a minimum so that the rest of the money is actually going to the kids. And so you can see here, you might have heard about USAID in the news lately. We do not take any government funding. We are 100% donor funded, and the main reason for that is we want to be able to share Jesus without restraint. You know, sometimes when you get government funding, there is restrictions on what you can share. Or that you have to share certain things or certain ideologies that we don't necessarily agree with as a Christian organization. And so we are the only Adventist organization that is in the fight for human trafficking. And we're becoming an emerging leader even with other secular or other Christian organizations. So I gave out a blue version of this card, and we'll use that for our raffle. So if you already turned in a card this morning, just write your name in. If at some point you want to update what you want to give, or you want to check off another box, you can just fill in the updated information, and I'll be sure to get that to our office. So first, I want to acknowledge that we have a lot of young people with us today. So we're talking about human trafficking. Some of the things that we will be talking about is pretty gruesome. It's going to be talking about really harsh realities that children face. So I appreciate you being here, and I encourage you to talk to your parents about what you see here today, and really discuss how you feel about it, and also what you see. We want to be able to have these types of conversations within a church context where you do have supportive adults who can tell you more about it and help you process this and work through it. Okay, so let's talk about human trafficking stereotypes. If a human trafficker were driving a car, what car would it be? What vehicle would it be? A van, right? And the color is? As I said. Okay, how many windows would this white van have? Yeah, right, just the front windows and nothing in the back, and then your windshield. Okay, so does this seem like a pretty accurate picture of what a human trafficker might look like? And it's in what type of parking lot? It's a Walmart parking lot, right? Okay, so when we talk about human trafficking right off the bat, we have this image in our head. But there is something very wrong with this picture. Can anyone guess what is inaccurate about this picture? It's what? Daytime? Okay, one, not quite, but good guess. Isaiah? The duffel bag. So he's already carrying something. Not something Something that is what we typically think, but is not actually true. Okay. She's distracted on her phone. Are many of our kids distracted on their phone when they're walking? So I studied abroad in Japan, and one of the rules, they actually announce it over the overhead speaker. And when I went, part of our orientation was we were not allowed to text and walk at the same time. So they actually tell you, don't walk and text on your smartphone. And this is what was considered public courtesy. You don't want to be bumping into people. You don't want to be distracted. So when you're going in Japan, if you ever visit, don't walk and text at the same time. So distracted, I would say that's pretty accurate. Something that is inaccurate about this picture. The side door's not open, that's true. So in human trafficking today, it would be the girl approaching the man. You might be thinking, that's ridiculous. Why would you think I'd say something like that? That's true. So where we do have ruses where women are now the traffickers, right? But in human trafficking situations right now, the victim is approaching the abductor. This is what they've found. In human trafficking today, it is not a random stranger. Most victims are not taken by force in public spaces. Instead, they are slowly drawn in by manipulation, false promises. Traffickers often build relationships with their victims, gaining control through coercion, emotional abuse, and creating dependence. These children are not stolen in a moment. They are taken over time. So this girl would already have a relationship with her abductor. Maybe she thinks she's meeting somebody else, but it's not a complete stranger. So they're like, oh, okay, that's my friend. I'm going to meet my friend. And then come to find the reality that it is not her friend at all. Often, right under the watchful eyes of their parents and communities, they are stolen. Understanding the real face of human trafficking is critical to stopping it. Okay, so globally, the driving force of human trafficking is poverty. But if we're looking at North America or US specifically, what do you think is the driving force? Who is most vulnerable in trafficking here in the US? Young girls. I'm thinking of a broader category, but young girls definitely fit within it. Teenagers, so still within that category. Young women in general. Social media users. Here in the US, it is typically through social media that trafficking victims are found. So, you guys kind of already, you actually got a good answer for this one. So in the United States, what demographic consumes the most social media daily? 13-year-old boys. 17-year-old girls. Okay, I got a couple for that one. 17-year-old boys. 15-year-old girls. Okay, so now it's a split. It's both groups agree that it's the girls. It's a split between 15 or 17 years old. So the correct answer is 17-year-old girls. Looking at the statistics, you can see here by age group where it peaks at 17 years old, and by gender, girls come in at 55%, and the average time for the 17-year-olds is 5.8 hours a day. For our 17-year-olds, what else are you doing? If 5.8 hours is spent online and you have your time in school, how much time are you spending with family or building other sorts of relationships? So I remember when I had just moved to 6 months after I moved to San Antonio, I moved to my own home. And so I had just been living with my sister and her husband, and now I was all alone in this house. My parents hadn't moved in with me yet, and I hadn't changed the door locks yet. So I was like, oh no, somebody might break in, somebody else might be in the house with me. And so each night I had that lock that you would put under the doorknob so that even if somebody was able to open the doorknob, they wouldn't be able to push the door open. And then I would turn on the little alarms per door, and then I would walk through each room of the house, make sure no one was there with me. And then after all that, I'm like, okay, I'm all alone in the house. Everything is locked. Windows are locked. I'm safe, right? And so at night, sometimes we have this false sense of security that once our doors are locked, once the security system is on, you, me, our kids, we're all safe. But the internet bypasses our efforts to protect our children, leaving them vulnerable to predators. Okay, this was one of the questions from this morning. Online predators mainly target girls in which age group? I heard the correct answer. It is B, 11 to 13-year-olds, followed by 7 to 10. So when I heard it, I thought it would be going older, like the 17-year-olds, right? But it is only going younger, 11 to 13, and then 7 to 10-year-olds. And this was a study done with 300,000 child predators. So this was not a small study. According to Polaris, 65% of reported trafficking cases in the US involved online recruitment. Social media, gaming platforms, and chat apps have become the new hunting ground for predators. And at this age, talking about the 11 to 13-year-olds, children are beginning to explore the digital world more independently, often engaging in social media, messaging apps, and online games. However, their limited understanding of online safety and susceptibility to manipulation make them prime targets for exploitation. Traffickers are taking advantage of the very platforms that teens are using to connect, express themselves, and seek affirmation. Can social media be a good thing? Yeah, sometimes, right? There's the stories of like people I haven't connected with in years and then find them online, right? There are good things about social media. So I don't want to paint this all with the same brush and say, hey, all social media is bad. But it is something that we have to be aware of, that this is not necessarily something kids are seeking out, that there are people seeking out our kids. Okay, what popular online game has been banned by 10 countries because it is a hunting ground for child predators? How do you guys already know that? You play it, right? Have you seen something like that in the... Okay, did you hear this? These are from the kids who have been playing it. They've encountered this. She said it went from text to now you can hang out, right? So Roblox is in 2024, it was the world's most popular online game, and I think it still is till now. It combines 3 elements, which is gaming, game creation, and social networking. And like these youngins pointed out, it's that social networking aspect that poses the greatest risk. As children play, they can chat and collaborate with friends and with complete strangers. So, 5 states have sued Roblox with 3 other pending. Kentucky alleged that the game is a playground for predators, and Tennessee joined the lawsuit citing risky conditions for kids. 10 countries have entirely banned Roblox, with Turkey leading the way in 2024. And so if you're thinking about it, it just got banned in 2024, and it was at 2024 that the study is saying that this was the most popular game came out, right? So it is all across the world. And one of the risks about it is because it is promoted as something that is safe for children. Adults can contact minors through direct messaging while pretending to be children. They then request explicit images or attempt to meet in person. This comes back to that image of a van, but this one where the child is approaching the predator, because they already have that relationship. And you might be thinking, how could this happen? How could a child trust a stranger that much? Do children have 100% wonderful relationship with their parents 100% of the time? No, right? There are days of like, oh, Mom said I couldn't do this. Mom said I couldn't go out with my friends. And then somebody they're playing with, hey, how's your day? Oh, it's been horrible. Oh, tell me about it. And then you have this relationship that starts to grow. And sometimes they think it is somebody their age that they're talking to. Okay, what percentage of minors are solicited by strangers online for sexually explicit content? So aren't the minors looking to make connections. These are strangers going to minors and asking for this content. Anyone for 8%? 17? 36? 44? It is 36% of minors have reported being asked to share sexual imagery of themselves by someone they met online. And if 36% is reported, you can guess that the actual number is probably higher. Okay, so now we're going to talk about different schemes. So one thing that we've seen on the rise is sextortion or extortion using sexually or explicit images. So a lot of the times in these cases, it's a guy and a girl who know each other. It's not always strangers. Sometimes it's between teens in the same school, in the same youth group, or the same friend circle. Even students from strong faith-based homes can find themselves caught in situations they never imagined. So a boy and a girl, they like each other, they begin flirting, build a relationship. One sends a private explicit image, asks for one in return, and in that moment, it feels exciting, it's secretive, and it's harmless, it's just between the two of us. They promise not to share these photos with anyone else. They trust each other. But what happens when the relationship ends? What if feelings shift? What if one teen pressures the other to give more than they're willing to, or that they're comfortable with? Or what happens if that image is forwarded to a friend, or worse, leaked onto the internet? You know, sometimes we think, oh, there's safety features on these apps. Now, if you updated your Instagram, you can't screenshot messages, right? But what if somebody has another phone and just uses another device to take a picture of that screen, right? There is no such thing as completely private in today's world. And suddenly, what felt like a private exchange becomes a public nightmare. Shame, fear, and betrayal follow. Some teens are blackmailed by the very person that they once trusted. Others spiral into anxiety, isolation, self-harm, or even suicide. This form of peer-to-peer sextortion is increasingly common and deeply damaging, happening in environments where many assume children are safe. And it's also important to note that it's actually illegal. Why is it illegal? Yes. Huh? David's also, it is illegal because it is still child pornography. So even though there's like, I said yes to it, as a minor you can't consent. And so when you share an image of someone, even if it is an image of yourself, you are sharing child pornography, and that's against the law. Even if it is shared to another teen or to another minor. So it is considered pornography, child pornography, and it is illegal. So even if photo is circulating in school, delete it right away. Don't let anything be on your device. Don't receive, don't send, is the safest course of action. However, there are actual criminals that use the same tactic. So here we see peer-to-peer, but then there is also people who target minors. So this is the story of Ryan Lake. In February 2022, Ryan was a 17-year-old straight-A student and a member of Future Farmers of America. From his home in San Jose, California, he began chatting online with someone he thought was a 20-year-old woman who sent him a nude photo of herself and asked for an intimate photo in return. In reality, Ryan was communicating with a man and 3 accomplices on the Ivory Coast in Africa. The men threatened to share the intimate photo of Ryan with his family and friends if he didn't pay $5,000. Overwhelmed by the continual pressure, Ryan sent $150 and then left a suicide note. Ryan was a victim of a global sextortion scheme. In April 25, 2025, so just last year, the 4 men were arrested for targeting Ryan and thousands of others. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center reported over 54,000 sextortion victims in 2024. 54,000 victims, these are only the ones they know about, and that's only in 1 year. So I want to talk, especially for our teens and our young adults. If you've ever found yourself, or if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, as a rule of thumb, don't share an image you wouldn't be comfortable with your parents seeing. But if you already are in that situation, maybe there's something in the past that you regret, something given the chance you would do differently. If that's you, hear this. Your story is not over. As someone who has lost a family member to suicide, I would rather have known the most shameful, the most embarrassing thing about him and have him still be alive today than the reality that he doesn't exist anymore. Your parents, your family, they might get angry, if they found out, oh, you've been doing that, but that's just gonna be for a moment. Above all, they want you to be safe. Your story is not over. So whatever thoughts play on repeat in your mind about your worth or your identity, God's word speaks the truth, one that never changes. God delights in you, not because you're perfect, but because you are his. Zephaniah 3:17 says, "The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In his love, he will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing." In one translation, it says, "He will renew you in his love," or "In his love, he will give you a new life." No matter where you've been or what you've done, you can begin again. As 2 Corinthians 5:17 reminds us, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here." There is hope and healing, and there is always a fresh start waiting in God's love. And sometimes, even if we don't participate, we don't send the nude photo, there's still deepfake. So deepfake is when an image is altered to show the likeness of an individual and then place on someone else a photo or a video of someone else. 98% of deepfakes are pornographic in nature, and it is typically without the victim's consent. We've also seen, actually recently, just watching YouTube, and one of the social media commentators that I watched said, "Oh, there has been a rise of nudify apps." So this is a tool. So if someone were to take a photo of me, they have a clear shot of my face and my body, they can then post it online to one of these nudify apps. And as you, who is here in person, who can see me right now, you know that I'm fully clothed. But if somebody were to see that online, it would be very hard to tell whether or not this was real. So it is getting to that point where AI is really good at generating these images, where if they have a clear picture of someone's face and body, they can just run it through one of these apps and create sexually explicit content. And so that's also now, even if what you post online is PG, that somebody can still take that image. And so one example is my sister is very careful about her daughter's face. So her daughter's face, there's always like an emoji over it or something covering it, and you'll probably see where a lot of parents are now more careful with the images of their children. And it's because of things like this where somebody can just take your image and run it through one of these apps. And so I want you to turn to page 13 of this book, page 13. and it has 5 expert recommended steps for victims of sextortion. So first, tell a trusted adult or a support person. You also want to preserve evidence. Take screenshots of all communications, whatever usernames, profile links, email address, or payment requests. Don't delete anything. Actually, just had a friend, his plumber came over and, was fixing up his sink, and then he found out that my friend worked with Child Impact and what Child Impact does, and he was just like, oh, that actually happened to my daughter, where someone had taken an image of his daughter and then was asking money for him not to send this image to everyone that she knew. And then so they took screenshots, they reported it to the police, and the guy who did it actually ended up being arrested. And so that's why we want to preserve evidence. Number 2, stop all communication with the perpetrator. These guys, especially if they are trained in this, that they're actual criminals who do this on a regular basis, they know how to put pressure on people. So just stop all communication. Don't try to negotiate. Don't try to engage. Just stop and just collect that evidence. You want to report it to the authorities as well as the platforms that they're using to contact you. And finally, seek mental health support. This isn't something that just simply goes away. We do want you to get the support that you need and the care that you need because this is a very real issue. Okay. Next, we're going to be talking about pornography. 75% of Christian men and 40% of Christian women reported consuming porn at some level. So pornography is not an issue that's just outside of the church. Okay, it is within the church. And what we've seen in studies that at about the age that most children are introduced to pornography is 11 years old. So if you have a kid who's over 11 and you haven't talked to them about pornography, chances are they've already been exposed to it. So this isn't something that's just in the secular world. Even within Christian communities, we see that pornography is something that is being used. It is addictive. When you look at brain scans of someone who is addicted to drugs and someone who is addicted to pornography, it's the same neural pathways. So on a mental health level, pornography is bad for you. On a physical level, pornography is bad for you. On an emotional level, pornography actually affects the way that you connect with people. So it will affect your relationship with your future spouse. From a biblical standpoint, pornography is also damaging. And from a moral standpoint, as it relates to human trafficking, there is no way to ensure that the porn you're consuming is safe in terms that the person who is on the video or on the photo is doing it consensually. There's no way to make sure that they are consensually participating in this. So you can help end sex trafficking by simply refusing to participate in the production, distribution, or consumption of pornography. If you go to page 30 of this book, it has resources at the end. It has porn blocking tools such as Covenant Eyes, Blocker X, Cold Turkey Blocker. But because pornography is addictive, these blocking tools is only a start. It's not the solution. So I encourage you to speak to a mental health professional, talk to, now you're an incoming pastor, talk to trusted people in the church who can help keep you accountable, because it is not shameful to want to get out of it. So if you're struggling right now and you're like, if I tell someone, it's going to be so shameful, it is better for you to expose that sin and be able to get the help that you need than to keep standing in that sin. For in God we have freedom, but it's going to take a lot of work. A pornography site that we've seen on the rise is OnlyFans. And so the appeal to young women is this is a way you can easily get money, right? You just message a couple of people, you show images. I actually know someone who does it, and her reasoning is, I already posted on Instagram. Why not get paid for it? And the allure for the fans or your subscribers is it simulates a dating experience. So because the subscribers can chat with the OnlyFans model or the OnlyFans creator. And so if a woman is speaking with a guy, they're chatting back and forth every single day. It's very intimate conversations. She's keeping track of his interests and his hobbies, his likes, his dislikes, and keeping track of the entire conversation. How many conversations do you think she can have at one time? Can she talk to 3 guys at the same time? What about 5 guys? 10 guys? Maybe 15. What about 50 guys? Can she communicate with 50 guys all at the same time with intimate conversations and keeping it track? It's a bit hard, right? And so what happens is it's not actually the OnlyFans model that you're talking to. So what is the title of someone hired to impersonate an OnlyFans model and engage with their subscribers? Imposter, chatter, scammer, or bilker? Anyone for imposter? They are pretending to be someone else, but that's not the title. Anyone for chatter? Scammer? Bilker? Okay. It is a chatter. Chatters are hired to represent OnlyFans creators. Chatters don't just respond to messages, they actively drive sales. So the main motivator is money. It is preying off of the loneliness of people to drive sales. Trained in fan psychology and persuasive writing, they know when and how to make offers, time discounts, or introduce new content drops. By maintaining daily conversations with fans, chatters keep them emotionally invested and more likely to spend. Something that I missed actually on the previous slide is this last line. 36% of OnlyFans accounts are classified as likely third-party controlled. So when I said earlier there's no way to make sure that the people participating in this are doing so consensually, well, that's one of the things for OnlyFans. They say, like, you're your own boss, right? There is nobody who is over you, who tells you what to do or what to post. But according to this, 36% of these accounts are likely third-party controlled. Some of these girls, even though it might not seem like it, are being forced into this lifestyle. Okay, so we already got the answer to this question. The answer is? Houston. Okay, so the top 5 cities for human trafficking, starting with number 5, is Miami, Florida, followed by Atlanta, Georgia, Washington, D.C. Number 2 is not on this list. It is Las Vegas. And finally, it is Houston. As mentioned earlier, Houston has the highest rate of human trafficking in the U.S., and they note that there are more brothels in Houston than Starbucks. This was actually, so Collegedale, Tennessee is where which Adventist school is at? Which Adventist school do we have in Tennessee? Southern. We have Southern, and that is actually where Child Impact is housed. And 2 weeks ago, there were 14 people who were charged in Collegedale, and one of them is reported to be associated with Southern. So, human trafficking is an issue close to us, right in Houston. We see that even here in San Antonio. So what can we do? At the back of this book are a wide variety of resources, and some of them is how to identify exploitation. I didn't talk about it on this set of slides, but foster care is also a pipeline for human trafficking. We have seen churches who have decided as a church that they will meet the foster care crisis. And so if that is something that God has called you to, there are children who go from the foster care system right into human trafficking in our community. There are resources at the back of the book from safety guide for teens, safety guide for parents, and also how to identify signs that somebody is being human trafficked. So I want to talk for our teens first. Your parents are there to protect you. And I know there are times when it seems like, oh, they have all these rules, but they want you to have a safe and joyful life. And these boundaries are there not to be a killjoy, but because of the reality that we live in a sinful and broken world. And so until you are ready to face and meet these horrific evils by yourself, your parents are there to hold the shield. And so that's why these rules are placed on you. Safety guide for parents, number 1 is to foster open and honest conversations. So I went to an online school for 7th grade and majority of my high school. And as part of that, they had us go through an online safety training. There's this 1-hour online safety training. We had to watch the beginning of each school year. And it talked about how easy it is to find the location of someone. So the police officer was chatting with this girl, finds out she's on the soccer team, finds out what her school colors are, finds out what number her jersey is. And based off of that, he knows what her hometown is. He is able to locate her, goes to the hometown, sees how many schools have those school colors, sees how many have soccer teams, looks at the children, sees what number her jersey is, and is able to follow her home from there. Thankfully, it's a police officer, and he was doing this to illustrate a point. However, the information we share online can be used in the same way to find out where we are. And so it's important as parents to have these open and honest conversations about safety. We talk about wearing your seatbelts and wearing a helmet, and these are just one of those things that fall within that safety category. If we as adults are uncomfortable talking about human trafficking, about sex, about sextortion, how uncomfortable would the kids be talking to us? Right? So we have to be able to have those conversations so that our kids can then come and talk to us. I remember attending a seminar, and one of the questions that was posed to the presenter is, what is the appropriate age for a child to have their own device, whether that's a phone, a tablet, what's that appropriate age? And his answer was, whenever it is, you can trust them to have an appropriate response to pornography. Because the reality is something is going to pop up on their screen, right? Kids are being targeted. One mom, what she did was she made a TikTok account and put there that she was 12 years old, or 13 years old, I think, and then just started scrolling. She hasn't liked anything. This is a brand new account. There's no indicator of the things that she likes, and she just scrolled. Within 12 minutes, something pornographic had been shown to her. So the reality of today is something pornographic will be shown your kid. Have you equipped your child to meet that and say no to it? And so that starts at home and having those types of conversations. As a last thing on this book, one, you have the physical copy here, so if anyone doesn't have a physical copy, I'll get it to you before the end of the program. You can also scan this QR code if you want to share it with other people or order a physical copy through Child Impact. And so I am a church engagement speaker, so I come to churches just like yours. This is at no cost to your church, so if you know of anybody else in a different church or in a school who needs a speaker who would be interested in learning about human trafficking, we want to get this message out. We want to be able to tell children how to defend themselves, how to protect themselves, and just to educate parents as well of what types of schemes we're seeing in the human trafficking sphere. And so you can actually request a speaker, and this is at no cost to either the school or the church to host us as a speaker. So let me know if there is a contact you would like me to reach out to, and I can reach out to them. The truth is, only 2% of human trafficking happens in North America. So all the gruesome things that we've talked about so far, that's only 2%. We have the 98% that happens globally. In Revelation 18, verses 11 through 13, it talks about the merchants of the world and they're buying and trading, and it starts to list the goods that they are buying and selling. And that list ends with human beings are being sold as slaves. The buying and selling of the bodies and souls of humans. When it comes to human trafficking, there are three major categories. So we're now shifting to the second part of the presentation, where we're going to be going from North America to our other projects. So the first is sex trafficking, and then the second, labor trafficking, and the third is forced marriage or child exploitation. So let's take a look at sex trafficking. This screenshot is in Zambia. It is at a really busy truck stop coming in and out of the country. And so what these young women would do is they would sell either vegetables or whatever other product they would have, and they would go to the truck drivers to try and sell food or other items so that they could provide for their family. They usually have a lot of siblings back at home who are depending on them to bring in money. And so what we've seen happen is the truck driver will then approach the girl and say, "That's not what I want to buy. Come back into the truck with me." And what the question she asks is, "Can I be a sacrifice?" That's the word they use. Can I be a sacrifice for my family? If I say yes to this, then my family gets to eat meals for the next 2 to 3 days. For $5 or $6, they get to be fed another 2 days. And so when we were filming this, this wasn't scripted. This truck driver came up to one of the girls and asked. And so this is a very common phenomenon.
I have been in law enforcement for 12 years. And what I've learned over 12 years is that safety is key. I'm constantly thinking about not only my safety, but a perk of the job is the safety of others. And safety, especially of vulnerable communities, which include young girls and women. And unlike being in the US, safety here in Zambia is not really all that emphasized. It's upsetting, it's angering, it's heartbreaking.
Hi everyone, I'm going to share with you my story from bad to good. When I was staying with my aunt and uncle, my uncle used to sexually abuse me every night, and sometimes he used to come to my bedroom and would slap me, force me to sleep with him. He used to threaten me, if I tell anyone, he's going to kill my brothers and me, and no one is going to know.
I am a protector. That's my job. My job. I'm also a parent. And somebody has to stand in the gap to protect them. And that's sponsors, that's the staff here at Riverside, and just a little bit that I could do to contribute with some of my knowledge base and experience. I wanted to make sure to share that with them, and I hope that they understood that I'm passionate about them and that I care about them and their well-being.
My neighbor told me about this school, Riverside Secondary School. Yes, she told me about Child Impact, how they help people and they change lives of people.
And here at Riverside, this is a fantastic school, and they have very high expectations for the kids. It's known throughout the country as one of the top schools. For some of these kids, the most vulnerable, they can't pass the tests to get into Riverside. And so we were like, how do we get these kids into a safe place on campus? And Melissa said, what about a program where we could tutor the girls and also give them a life skill?
So the girls that are in the tailoring program, oftentimes it's because their academics weren't enough for them to qualify to attend secondary school. And so without that secondary training and without any kind of vocation, their options were very limited of what they can do with their lives. And so some of these girls, a lot of them, have grown up with very poor families, and so there's a lot of pressure on them to do something to earn money for their families. Some of them are selling tomatoes or potatoes or corn in the market. Others are selling themselves in the market. And so we knew that we had to do something to end that. Rescue at Riverside means we are going to bring you to a safe place. Forget about the chaos of your life before. We're going to bring you to safety here. You can always feel safe here. So we're sometimes rescuing girls who have already experienced trauma and abuse, and we're also rescuing girls from that trauma and abuse. If they meet the same vulnerability criteria, we can predict what their life would be like without this intervention. And let's try to grab those girls and say, would you like a chance to have an education? Would you like to have a chance at learning tailoring? Then come, we have a spot for you. And we heard from the kids several times. They said, I cannot believe you picked me. Like, they're so proud of themselves, and we're so proud of them too. They have overcome so much just to be here. When I was sitting in geometry class, I wasn't thinking about somebody might hurt me when I go home. That's what these girls have to face, is that this is really a lifeline for them. Being in this program, it's a lifeline for them. Attending Riverside is saving their life.
So that covers our first category of sex trafficking. The next is labor trafficking, and we touched on this in the sermon, where we have these brick kilns in Pakistan, where entire families are enslaved. At least 2 million children are working in slave-like conditions. And so this is a video of a mom making bricks. Her baby is crying. And so you think finally she's going to pick up her baby, comfort her baby, but she just moves the baby aside so that she can continue working on these bricks. And it's not because she is heartless, it is because this is the reality of her circumstance.
In the brick kilns, I met a man by the name of Imran, a hard worker. His father had been born as a slave in the brick kilns. Imran, as a young boy, longed for freedom, and one day he ran away. He escaped and built a life for himself. He became a truck driver and was doing well, but then word came that his father had passed away, so he went back to the brick kiln for his funeral. It was really a trap because the brick kiln owner recognized that the deceased slave had a son. So he forced Imran to take on his deceased father's debt. This debt does not die with an individual. It passes on to their children. And so there are so many of these families that are in generational debt. In fact, I talked with one family, they don't even know how many generations have been slaves. For 10 years, Imran has been working in the brick kilns, hoping again for freedom, but without any chance of that possibly happening. He has a beautiful little daughter now. She's 4 years old, and he has a 1-year-old son. But one day as his daughter was playing, she fell into a pot of boiling water. She has severe burns on her arm that still hurt today. And yet, despite these challenging circumstances, she's one of the most cheerful girls that we've ever met. Imran longs for freedom. The story of Imran is just one of many that we've encountered. Each one is heartbreaking in its own way, whether it be physical challenges or generational debt, seeing somebody elderly that can barely creep along the ground making bricks, or seeing a little girl at age 4 already learning how to make bricks. This is their life sentence. This is a reality that many of these families can face in Pakistan, because there's absolutely no way that they can get out from underneath this debt unless someone from the outside is able to pay that for them. Because of the Free a Family project through Child Impact, Imran has an opportunity to once again be free. Today, there are more slaves than at any time in Earth's history. The question I have to reflect on is, what am I doing to make a difference in modern day slavery? What are you doing to make a difference? Here in Pakistan, we have witnessed slavery firsthand, but there's a difference. We've been given full access to go into these brick kilns and free these families from slavery. As long as the debt is paid, these individuals, these families, these children, they can go free. So the question is, what am I doing about this opportunity in front of us today to make a difference for those who are in bondage? I am here with Farzan Masi and his beautiful family with 5 children, ages 15 to 5, and his lovely wife. His family for generations have worked in the brick kilns. He doesn't even know how many generations that's been. We're excited today, Farzan, because your debt has been paid. This paper represents that debt, and we want to rip it up. Congratulations. That is awesome.
So by definition, okay, I'll get your question in a moment. So by definition, child impact predominantly works with kids. And so when we went into the brick kilns in Pakistan, we were faced with the question, do we then now help adults as well? And I would say that our program in Pakistan is our most holistic program because it not only gets the child out of that situation, but it takes the entire family out. What happens is their debt is paid so that they can leave the brick kiln, and then they are placed into 6 months of housing where they have community. The father is given a trade to learn. Then he can get employed. And usually we have found that one person being employed is enough to provide for the whole family. So it's not the mom, the dad, and the kids that are all working. Then the kids are plugged into tutoring because they haven't had school. And so they're plugged into tutoring so they can catch up in terms of their education and they can start going to school. And this way we're not only saving this generation of children, but also the future generations as well. And so I would say this is our most holistic program, the Free a Family. This is something that if you as a church want to form together to participate in a program like this into freeing a family, we also sometimes Sabbath school classes raise the funds to free a family, but we had questions over here. Yes. For sure. So a lot of, so in the initial debt is typically medical. So if the mom needs a C-section or for Imran, so he was already in bondage and then his daughter fell into boiling water. So there's gonna be a medical bill attached with getting her burns fixed, right? And so they already had the initial debt and now the debt is piled on to, more debt is piled onto it. So usually it's a medical is the initial debt. If somebody in the family is sick, needs life-saving surgery, or needs some sort of treatment, they incur that initial debt. And a lot of these families in these brick kilns are Christians. They're already the lowest caste in their society. They have nowhere to turn to, so they go to the brick kiln to get that initial debt. And the interest is in such a way where once the debt is incurred, they're really not going to be able to pay it back. For some of the families, they live in the brick kiln. Some of them just live right outside of it. But for those who live in the brick kiln, then they're incurring costs on housing, on food, on water. And so it really is a situation where they really don't climb out of it. And like the video said, the debt is passed down from generation to generation. Any other questions on this one? So it's case by case, and the people who decide is really our partner in the ground. And so we go into the different brick kilns and see where we can make the most good. So the example this morning with that 72-year-old man where he had 8 kids. And so how can we then just save, so he has 8 kids and some of them have their families of their own. How can we just save one person? But because the debt is the entire families. So we can free a family of 2, we can free a family of 5 because it's only one debt. So it's not when we free more people, we have to pay a bigger debt. It really depends on what that current debt is. And so, so it really depends from situation to situation, but it's the team on the ground who decides which families we're able to free. So the program is $5,500, and that includes the payments of the debt and the 6 months of care. And the reason being we don't just pay off the debt is we don't want to pay off the debt and then the next week they're back in a brick kiln. By having that 6 months of a safety net to get them trained in a trade and getting them employed, the 2 years that the program has existed, none of the families that we've worked with have ended back in a brick kiln. Yes. Yes, so this is such a powerful program. So that covers our second category of labor trafficking. There are also brick kilns in India, but our current project is in Pakistan. Okay, our third category, forced marriage or child exploitation. We talked a little bit about this morning. So what age do you think it is acceptable for someone to get married? At 18 years old, is it okay they get married? Yeah, right? You know, you're like, that might not be wise, but legally, 18 is a good age. What about 16 years old? No, right? But then we begin to question, is it because of our Western values or is it actually morally wrong? When we look historically, historians say that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was about 15 or 16 years old. So now it's a little bit hard to make the case that it is morally wrong for a 16-year-old. What about a 14-year-old? At this point, is it morally wrong or is it just not in alignment with our values? Not in alignment with our values. Okay, what about at 12 years old? Is it morally wrong? Yes. Right? As we get younger and younger, there comes a point where it's not just about being Western values, it becomes morally wrong. And so why is child marriage considered human trafficking? The answer is all of the above. It often goes against the girl's wishes. Something is traded for her, whether an actual object or money, and because she is underage. So whenever there is something sexual relating to a minor, it is automatically considered human trafficking. So these remote villages in the southern parts of Palawan in the Philippines, some of them are so remote that you need a helicopter to get to them. So the school that I went to was just about like a 2-hour hike from the base of the mountain. That is the closest school. So you would have to hike for days or hours to get to our further schools. And at this point, I believe in 2023, we finished the 5th school, so I think we have 6 schools in the jungles of Palawan now. And so you have a helicopter. I don't know if you guys heard about the helicopter that went down in the Philippines that went missing with the pilot and the nurse. It is actually this helicopter that you see in the background. And so it was this project in Palawan that helicopter was servicing. And so this is our CEO, Tom Evans, and he's greeting these people, and it's this joyful scene as these students are coming out to greet him. When he got home, he got a message from one of the students, and she says that she is 13 years old, and when she grows up, she wants to become a nurse. She's asking for sponsorship. And just based off of this text, you can see how proactive she is, right? She's not saying, oh, I hope they sponsor us. She goes, finds him on Facebook and says, I want you to sponsor me because I want to become a nurse one day. She is proactive. And so he says, yes, my family will sponsor you. And he shows her picture to our partner in Palawan. He says, find this girl, our family will sponsor her. And our team sadly said that she was already married. And so he asked her, is it true that you're married? And he says, yes, I am married. I'm not happy. She is forced to quit her schooling. And so for her, the reality of becoming a nurse is probably not going to happen. And when we met her on the last trip, or our team met her the last trip back to the Philippines, she had a 3-month-old baby, which she had given birth to when she was 15 years old. Though gifted and intelligent, Reina's future opportunities have been severely limited due to early marriage. We were not in time to save Reina from her fate, but she has become a catalyst for a rescue campus that we are looking to complete. So this campus is for those girls that when they say no to child marriages, often they are ostracized. they are mistreated by their family, by their village, and so they need a place to go. And so one of the stories was actually the teacher went to get one of the girls back, and they said, well, you can take her. We don't want her anymore. And then so she said, yes, she will be my daughter, and went ahead and adopted that child. This is the story of baby James. He is a child of a child bride. So his mom was also a child bride, and globally the leading cause of death for girls 15 to 19 is complications during pregnancy and childbirth. And so baby James was born, and the teacher said that had the baby been baby Jane instead, somebody from the village would have kept her because of the possibility of a dowry down the line. But because of superstition and because it's a boy, then they left him in a shallow grave with his mother. And so the teacher hiked from our school 9 hours to adopt him. And so she brought her back from the mountain, and it reveals how deeply ingrained this idea that if this is a female, I can get something for this later in life. And so this is now baby James, and you can see him. We get pictures of him every once in a while. And so that is where he is now.
So just recently, all the kids here went on break, and 9 of the students didn't come back for classes. And the teachers went out trying to find each of these 9 kids and find out what happened to them. Why didn't they come back to my class? And all 9 of them were married off as children. And they were only able to recover one of those children, Rylan, because she stood up for herself. And she said, I want to go back to school, and I want to get an education and study.
When I was still in the mountains, they forced me to marry, even though I didn't want to. Sometimes they even scared me. If I didn't want to marry, they would do something bad to me.
The culture here is that once a man gives you money and you agree to it and accept it, it means you are willing to marry him. But if you don't like the man, you double that amount. If it's 100, you double it and give him back 200. Sometimes if the woman does not want the man, what the man does is give the money directly to the mother. If the parents have accepted the money, their child can no longer refuse.
I felt that I wasn't important to my parents because if I were important to them, they would respect my decision to continue my studies. It's just sad because for just 200, they will force me to marry a man I don't even like.
My mother got married at 10 years old and gave birth to me when she was 12 years old.
This is what happens in the mountains. Sometimes they force their children to marry because of money. That's why I asked my teacher for help.
We decided to really go up there to rescue that child, and we really saw the situation. When we went to the house, I really saw how her parents and relatives rejected her, how they threw away her clothes.
The family was so angry. They said, if you want her to go back to school and study, then she's yours. You have to take care of her from now on. And one of the teachers, Michelle, told me, I instantly offered to adopt her as my own daughter. And not just in a way that she could stay at my house, that I would prepare food for her and look after her, but she's actually going through the legal system to adopt her as her own child forever.
I told her, don't worry. If you have no parents to support you, I will be your parent here.
What Michelle told us is that she's not only now trying to adopt Rylan, but she's trying to adopt Rylan's siblings to protect them as well from being married off as children.
I want to indeed cut off our traditions in the mountains where women marry early. So now I am happy because Child Impact has a program for women like me.
While Rylan's story is very encouraging and super exciting to be a part of, there were 8 other children who didn't stand up for themselves and say, I want to continue my studies, I don't want to be married. And so there are many other children here who are in need of a safe place. So just recently, all the kids here went on break, and 9 of the students didn't come back for classes. And the teachers went out trying to find each of these 9 kids and find out what happened to them. Why didn't they come back to my class? And all 9 of them were married off.
Okay, so the video already looped. So at this time, we are going to go ahead and collect for our drawing. We'll have it in about 10 minutes. But so go ahead and fill out just your name if you already submitted a card this morning and nothing has changed. But if you want to add anything or you're interested in anything else on this card, you can go ahead and just fill in your information, and then I'll take the updated version. And I'm going to ask Isaiah to help me with collecting the blue cards. So while you guys are doing that and while he's collecting the cards, we are going to go ahead and talk about our secret project. So for this next section, please, no recording, video, audio, no recording at all, please, because these are our secret projects. And our partners risk their lives every day to run these secret projects, and so are the things that we don't talk about online or publish that we are even in these countries. So, okay. Okay, thank you.